Alaikum everybody. This is Faisal Talpur broadcasting live from London on Ramadan Radio 87.9 FM. You can visit us online on ramadanradio.org. Otherwise, if you would like to access or go through, if you're watching this on, if you would like to watch this on Facebook, then it's www.facebook.com/Ramadan Radio London. We are also live on YouTube right now. On YouTube, you can search for Ramadan Late Radio London. You should be able to find the channel, and please don't forget to subscribe. We have got a lot of great programs on throughout the entire length of Ramadan, inshallah. I'd like to welcome all of you, brothers and sisters, once again. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Faisal Talpur. And today we are going to be talking about launching your business. Now, this may be a very dry topic for a lot of people and maybe a very exciting topic for a lot of people, but unfortunately or fortunately, this is all I know. I have been in business for over 14 years or so. And recently I have taken on trying to help Muslim brothers and sisters, and anybody and everybody who would love to try and perhaps come into the world of entrepreneurship, come into the world of business. So the whole idea here is to try and encourage you to perhaps consider entrepreneurship, consider getting into business. And today's specific topic, launching your business in 2021. The reason I thought I should share this with you and discuss this with you is because a lot of us would love to have and own our own business, but unfortunately what happens is that things get in the way. So roughly about, a research says roughly about 87% of professionals, given the option, given the choice, would love to get into business. But when asked why don't you get into business, why don't you start your business, the normal standard answer that comes out is, we don't know how, we just do not know who to go to, we don't know where to begin. So my idea of today's program through Ramadan Radio is to try and help you guys with getting some of those initial steps out of the way. And I'm going to do like a tutorial style, a presentation style kind of program today. So rather than you just looking at me, it is better that I talk you through some of the slides that I've prepared, especially for today's show. So basically, let's get started really. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm hoping that this is going to help you guys. Okay, I'm hoping that you can see my screen. Basically, the idea of today's program, like I said, is that if you are planning to get into business or thinking of starting a business, then today's broadcast is for you, because today we are going to talk about how to approach an idea the right way. Okay, it's extremely important. How to convert it into a viable and sustainable business, and then steps that you will need to do all of that. So basically, there are 6 core steps which I feel that you need to take your business to market. Now, those who are listening to this on the radio, I know, of course, you cannot see the slides that I'm sharing, but I am going to be talking through the slides in a much detailed manner. So if you have got your notebooks handy, then start taking some notes, because this is going to be a very interesting and a very informative session. Okay, let's move on. So the purpose of this broadcast is to try and help you and motivate you to try and perhaps consider getting into business. So that's what it is. A lot of them, like I said, a lot of people do not know how to get into business, and this is where this becomes an extremely big challenge. So the takeaway from today is going to be, if you follow some of these basic steps that I talk about, hopefully it will make it easier for you, inshallah. Right, a little bit about myself, but I'm going to talk about myself a little later in the presentation. I came into business 14 years ago, like I said. And when I got into business, I started from scratch, from zero. And it was very, very difficult for me to understand each and every aspect of how business should be run. And I had to, I'm self-taught, so I literally started teaching myself how different aspects of business work. And it took me a very long time to understand how I can put all the different pieces of the puzzle together and make it happen. So my second business was, I felt it's going to be much easier, but it ended up becoming even more difficult. And so was the case with my third business as well as the fourth business. So I soon realized that it's not about when you are doing your, when you get into business and you start doing the business, it doesn't necessarily makes it easier. And unless you actually make conscious efforts to put certain blueprints, frameworks in place, and you start to see different patterns as to, where are you getting stuck, and then you try and remove those issues. So if you turn a business creation into like a framework or a blueprint or a formula, that's the only time it starts to get easier, because you can then start to plug and play into different aspects of business as well as different businesses altogether. So that's what I ended up doing. Now, research shows that 42% of businesses fail right from the outset. So one of the reason I am talking about this subject is because a lot of people start getting into business and think of an idea, and they feel that it's just the right thing for them to get into, and they just get on with it. Although that's a very good action taking approach, but unfortunately 42% of those businesses fail. And as I've written on the screen, 42% of the businesses fail because there is no market need. So you can imagine 42% of the businesses or people are doing a business when there is no market need for that business. So there is no market need there, that market doesn't exist. People don't want to buy that product. So which is why, you end up getting a lot of failures right from the outset. Now, why is this important? Of course, goes without saying that Islam prefers and encourages entrepreneurship. I think you have heard examples from the life of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and a lot of other prophets as well. So I'm not going to go into that. I think that's pretty much given, that our faith encourages us to become entrepreneurs, and that is the whole point of us trying to see the more of us who can get into business and run their own business. I feel that is one of the successes, one of the reason for us to become successful as ummah. So that's the point. So that's the mashallah, the Islamic perspective. Otherwise, also getting into business, I must say, I would never look back. If I was to say, would you do it all over again? What I started doing 14 years ago, the answer is, although it was very difficult, the answer is yes, of course I would, because I just love it. It's not very difficult. Sorry, it's not very easy right from the outset, but that's just like anything in life, right? I mean, the more you do something, the easier it gets, right? It's as simple as that. And predominantly now is the right time to get into business, I feel, because given the current global situation with the pandemic, and apart from that as well, the technology is there. People are happy to work remotely. So the timing couldn't be more perfect. So it's all about you taking the action and just making it happen. And I'm hoping today's presentation is going to help you with that. Right. So a couple of sorry. So I'll come back to the questions later. If you guys would like to interact, the number to perhaps text on or WhatsApp on or call on is 077 614 60614. I repeat, that's 077 614 60614. You can call, you can WhatsApp, with your questions, your feedbacks, your comments, on that number. So, right, starting your own business. Right. So when you are starting your own business, basically what happens is that, um, it shows you, what you want to do. So you can pretty much carry on with what you would like to do, and you can, many say that, that's one way of following the dream. And to some extent that is right. Although for a lot, it ends up becoming a nightmare. But the difference between running or turning a viable business, or running a viable business, and perhaps a sustainable business, and having it, driving it into the ground, is all about getting some very basics right. Part of that is, of course, planning and making sure that what you are selling in the market and what you're trying to take to the market, there is a market that exists, right? So, when you do want to start your own business, typically what happens is that we are faced with this internal tug of war, right? I mean, simply because we do not know any better, a lot of times, because it's an unknown territory. A lot of, that inside voice in our head is telling us not to get into it, simply because that is way out of our comfort zones, right? So, but then again, you can never grow if you continue to remain in your comfort zone, for that matter. So, there is always an element of risk involved, no matter what you do in life. I mean, even if you're crossing the road, for example, there is an element of risk involved. So it all depends on what your appetite of risk is. But the more you understand a topic, the more you have the knowledge on that topic, the more you know about that topic, the more confident you get about that topic. And the more confident you get about that topic, the more, you feel like that you have got what it takes to make it happen, right? um, and obviously there are other factors, like, you will have the first thing that, the first resistance, that you get is from your own family members saying, listen, this can be disastrous. And to some extent they may not be wrong, but this is where, you have got to address their concerns. But it all boils down to how confident you are, whether you can actually make it happen. Because if you are confident within yourself that you can make it happen, and whatever you're trying to sell in the market, there's a demand for it, then, it's very easy to convince others around you. Okay. Um, and your brain starts to weigh the odds straight away. So the way we have been built as humans is that the moment you are thinking of making a decision, it starts to weigh the pros and the cons, right? And again, that little voice in your head which is saying don't do it, the only way to shut that little voice is to suspend your disbelief, perhaps, right? And of course, take action and understand. The more you understand, the more you will be able to, you will be able to follow your gut as well. Okay. Right. So that's me. Like I said, been in business for 14 years, and have started 4 or 5 different businesses from scratch, right? And I'm not gonna stay on this slide for long, to bore you. So I'll just move forward. Okay. So this is again something that we've just spoken about. What business should you not get into? Now, this is very interesting. What happens is that a lot of times we have issues from the perspective of, people, you want to listen to, perhaps you want to follow the advice of a friend. You may want to, you get inspired by somebody who you may know, in your society, in your community. He started a business and he or she may have become very successful. So hearsay, table talk, impulse, definitely not the right things to consider when you're getting into business, right? Recent trends, buzzword or hype, right? Again, these can be part of your consideration, but they should not certainly be the only consideration you're making when you're getting into business, right? Following the footstep of a friend or someone who's doing great, like I said. Now, see, what happens is that we think that somebody has taken on a business and he's become or she's become very successful, and we feel if we follow those footsteps, his or her footsteps, we are going to have a similar fate, or we will be successful. Unfortunately, what we tend to forget is that they are not us, we are not them, right? They're individuals, their experiences are different, they're unique in their own way. They may have had X, Y, and Z, what do you call it, help from somebody which we may not know of, right? So putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and then thinking that you may have exactly the same kind of situation in terms of success in business, it's false hope, it's false belief, right? Okay, so just because you're good at something doesn't necessarily mean that should be converted into a business. Okay, just because, and again, this is against a lot of hype and what you hear outside, through business mentors and stuff, and they say, listen, if you're good at something, convert it into a business. The answer is yes, but there are some preconditions that need to be followed. So that's that. Now I'm just going to talk you through what I feel should be the 6 core steps of launching your idea. Okay, so the idea, of course, step number 1. Then number 2 is validation. So if you do not validate your idea, which means if there is no real demand for your idea in the market, then you do not really have a business. Okay, and it is extremely important that, okay, so we are getting idea, a lot of us get ideas almost one a day, every single day for the rest of our lives, right? So we end up getting ideas all the time. What makes a good idea different from a not so good idea is, of course, whether somebody is happy to purchase that idea and the market exists, right? And that's where the validation comes in. Now, the third step is segmentation. You absolutely have to make sure that your target segment is ready to purchase your product. They should be great in number, because you may not be able to convince everybody to buy your product. So if there are like 10 buyers in the market, you don't have a valid a valid business that you can perhaps get into. Okay. So product, of course, product is the most important thing when it comes to, no matter who says what, but product is the most important thing when it comes to getting into business or selling anything. When I say product, I also mean service. So even if you're in a service industry, trying to get to a service industry, that is where your most focus should lie. Presentation, of course, if you are not going to present something well, you do not stand a chance of selling that thing. So, it's extremely important. Then is marketing. I cannot emphasize enough. A lot of people tend to forget and not focus on this component whatsoever. I consult with a lot of companies, and what happens is that, especially some of the new ones as well, they have spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, sometimes even millions of pounds, trying to come up with this fantastic technology or software or app or whatever. And unfortunately, when you look at their marketing budget is like 2% of the entire spend, which in my opinion is silly, because really it should be, I would have thought, at least about 30 to 40%, right? A general rule of thumb that I follow is 30 30 30 or 33 33 33 rule, right? So your marketing should have at least 33% budget for you to actually make something substantial of the business that you're trying to get into. Lastly, sales, of course, goes without saying. You need to have a fantastic sales process in place. So these are the 7 core pillars or 7 steps. In other words, you need to consider if you're looking to take your idea into the market, and especially if you're looking at it from a commercial point of view. Okay. Um, um, Product and segmentation. The reason I've got these arrows going from segmentation to product to segmentation is because some people would consider the product before the segmentation of the market, okay, and some people would first segment the market and then design the product accordingly, right? I personally am one of those people who would look at the market segment first and then design the product. I want to know who I'm selling to before I get into designing the product, okay? And these are the internal decisions. So from 1 to 4, most of the decisions are internal within the company of which you are going to be brainstorming. And the rest of them, product presentation, marketing and sales, is where, you know, you start to get the exposure to the market. So this is where you need to be receiving the feedback. You need to be receiving, a deep understanding of exactly what the market is telling you about your product. Once again, I hope you are those who are listening to this on FM, 87.9 FM is where this is being broadcasted, and of course Facebook Live. Once again, the link, if you would like to watch this on Facebook Live, this is facebook.com/Ramadan Radio London, is the link that you can follow. And you can also type in Ramadan Radio London in your Facebook search, and you should be able to find the channel. If you have any questions, there's the website to visit again is ramadanradio.org, and you should be able to listen to this live on the radio as well right now as we are going through the broadcast. If you have any questions or comments, guys, feel free to please message or text the studio on 077-614-60614. I repeat, 077-614-60614. Okay, let's move on. So how do we validate an idea, right? First and foremost, let's get into what is an idea, right? So Google's definition is a thought or a suggestion as to a possible course of action, right? My definition for the world of entrepreneurs or for entrepreneurs is, an idea for an entrepreneur is a glimmer of hope. So, for us as entrepreneurs, we feel that the idea is what is the cure all for all our problems, all our troubles. And especially if you're looking for an escape, right? So if you're a professional, you're looking for escape, you want to get into business, that idea may be it, right? So we take ideas very seriously. Of course, if you don't pay attention to it, you are not going to make it happen, which is the whole point, right? So most of the ideas, unfortunately, never see the light of day. Okay, and this is where a lot of good ideas are dead, buried under the water, and nothing ever happens to them. Okay, they die the natural death within our minds, basically. And we've thought of something and we have ignored it. We have not taken it forward, and unfortunately it disappears. And before time, it's actually forgotten, right? A lot more ideas are killed, suppressed, or ignored than those that get attention. I believe every good and positive idea has the potential to change the world for the better. I mean, look at some of the ideas out there. I mean, literally, it really is the core component of if you look at it, the entire world that we have built around us today. So it is an extremely important thing if you actually pay attention to it and if you make this happen. But only if, like I said, if it is brought to life, if it is treated properly, and if it is put to good use. So idea is nothing but a thought, unless you actually pay some serious attention to it. Okay. Bringing ideas to life. What do we need to do to bring our ideas to life? Number one, we have to make sure that our ideas reach maturity, right? We have to nurture reaches maturity. This may take some time. It could be years. Now, this is another issue. We may think of an idea, right? And that idea may be, I don't know, one good idea in the morning, and we just think, okay, let's just run with it. That's the wrong approach to do, and this is where that idea can turn into a disaster. So you have got to let it mature in your mind, in your brain, or you have to write it down, right? And it may take some time, but you need to get to that stage. What does this mean? You have to look at every aspect of the idea. So I have actually divided what makes an idea business worthy, or a commercial idea, right? And these are the different components. The viability, you have to check the viability of the idea, the credibility of the idea. You have to check the sustainability of the idea, right? And this is where I was talking against the hype or the buzzwords. I mean, a buzzword may occur today and may take on the market by storm, but within 1 year it may die its own death, right? So if you are turning it into a business, it has to have some sustainability, right? Resilience, I mean, I don't have to go far than our current times. We are going through a pandemic, and if your idea or if your business is not resilient enough, it's not going to survive, right? Like so many businesses unfortunately have disappeared, right? And it should be monetizable, right? So someone should be prepared to give money for your idea or your product or your service. Okay, so I repeat: viability, credibility, sustainability, resilience, and monetization of an idea is what makes it really marketable and business worthy and viable. Okay. Step two: giving life to an idea. So how do you give life to an idea? We have to take the right steps to give it a final shape and bring it into this world in some sort of physical or service form. Okay, so of course you cannot, the likelihood of you just selling an idea is very less. Okay, there are not going to be too many people who are going to literally pay you X amount of money simply because you had a beautiful dream the night before you slept. Okay, you should be able to, and you have to convert it into, give it some sort of a physical form for it to be sold. The only way to bring your idea to life is to be able to implement it, deploy it, execute it, and take action. So that also becomes the acronym of the word idea, right? So unless you are implementing and making things happen, you're not going to get very far with this, unfortunately. So any idea that you feel is good, put it through maturity, the test of maturity, let it grow in your mind, so that you can see end to end exactly how this is going to happen, and then of course you can bring it to life. Okay. The motive behind your idea, this is extremely important. Different kinds of ideas we have, of course. So you've got a commercial idea, a non-commercial idea, or both, right? So but commercial idea, of course, as we can tell, it's where money is made. And then of course you've got charity and social help, community kind of ideas where you're trying to help people, right? And that's where the monetary aspect is not there, but helping people, and perhaps gaining the goodwill of the Almighty is more of a priority. Okay. And or it could be a combination, which is both. But for the purpose of this presentation, we are going to stick to commercial ideas. So say, for example, something that you can make money off of, or turn it into a business, right? Generate profit from. Okay. um, right. There are two kinds of ideas: ideas with legs and ideas without legs. At least that's how I would like to call it. Ideas without legs are ideas born out of excitement, right? They are very impulsive, if I may say. They're unrealistic, they're purposeless, they have no aim or plan, and with no visible point or purpose. Idea with legs are the ideas that are born out of need. Now, these are some sort of telltale signs for you to understand, what makes a good, viable commercial idea as compared to the ones which are not, right? It's realistic, it's purposeful, it has got a clear vision and target, and it shows determination. Now, earlier I was talking about, how do you differentiate a good from the bad? So, here are some pointers for you to consider. Right? How do I define a commercial idea? The formula. So this is the formula that I came up with ages ago. when I was trying to establish different businesses. Idea plus rationale equals viable business. So this is how I define it. A life-changing thought that you believe can change your life for good. Okay, that's how I feel, what an idea should be, right? I repeat, a life-changing thought that you believe can change your life for good. But that's just the idea. It has to have some sort of a rationale to it, right? Which means it needs to have market receptiveness, which means the need plus want. Okay, something that people are prepared to pay money for. Okay, again, don't forget, I'm talking about commercial ideas. I'm not talking about non-commercial ideas, charity, philanthropy. I'm not talking about those ideas right now. Okay, equals to viable business. And how do you define viable business? Capable of working successfully, feasible, sustainable, profitable, and fulfills your purpose is what how I define a business to be viable for yourself, of course. Okay, let's move on. So you have got two types of different scenarios. You already have got a pretty good idea what you want to do, or sometimes you may have no clue as to what you want to do in terms of business and what sort of business you should be getting into, right? So you have either way, both of them, they have got to be put through the idea validation check. Okay, whether you have an idea or you don't have an idea, they need to be put through an idea validation check. The only difference here is that if you haven't got a clue what business you want to get into, right, that's where something what we call is a business identifier. So that's where you have to understand what sort of business you should be doing, or what kind of business would be the most appropriate business for you, right? um, Now, what's your clear purpose and vision behind your idea? um, Now, there are many different reasons why we come up with ideas, or what we have, or what we call as ideas, right? But it needs to have a clear purpose and a vision behind it. Otherwise, again, very soon you are going to lose your motivation, and it's not going to get anywhere. So, you want to popularize a concept, product, or service. That could be one of the core purposes behind your idea. You want to gain fame, name, popularity, or significance. You want to contribute, help, support people. You want a side income, side earning, or additional income. You want to replace your work or job, right, with a business and become an entrepreneur. You want to purchase assets, land, and property, right? I mean, so this could be one of your big ideas, that I'm going to now literally start becoming or acquiring and amassing different assets, for example. Or you want to just improve your lifestyle and specifically want to make £10,000 per month. Now, I've consulted with a lot of professionals who want to get into business, and the reason I've put that figure down is that seems to be the comfort zone for a lot of people. I mean, so a lot of people who are earning decent salaries, they say, listen, if my business was to be generating 10 grand a month, for example, I would be more than comfortable, along with my spouse and kids, right? That's going to give us a decent lifestyle, which is why I've so and this is another thing. The reason, again, the salary is so high is because people are a concept or whatever you want to do, you have to have absolute clarity in that, right? So that's that. Now, how do we know an idea is business worthy? Checking the viability. Okay, but how do you check the viability? But what's a viable idea? An idea that can be converted into a product or service. Okay. um, if it's potent, packageable, presentable, and promotable. So those are the 4 P's that you've got to keep in mind. Okay. um, a product or service that people are prepared to pay money for. It's very simple and straightforward. If people are not happy to open their wallet and take out the money and give it to you, you do not have a business, naturally, right? Question then becomes, how do we figure out what people will be prepared to pay money for? Okay. And that's where a lot of people cannot move forward. So I'm going to give you the understanding of how you can figure out. How do you figure out what people will be prepared to pay money for? Test number one. How can you test whether your idea is going to work? Existing similar products or services in the market. right? Sorry, the bottom bullet has prematurely appeared. So I apologize. Existing similar products or services in the market, competition, advertisement, companies are spending money to promote and sell their products. There is traction, momentum, and movement in the market. The market is already mature, and the market is a saturated market. Now, some of the points over here, you will probably be slightly, how to put this, shocked about, because a lot of again, a lot of business advisors and what have you, they say, you know, the less the competition, the better it is, right? I don't necessarily agree with that. Okay. And then, of course, the market, in my understanding, a saturated market is easy to make money off of. Okay. Um, and I think this is where again, a lot of people, they have got these issues where they say, a saturated market is the market you should not be getting into, right? And I'll tell you later why I feel that is not a bad idea. Okay. And active trade, so means there is buying and selling taking place. Now, these are telltale signs. These are the very obvious things that you can test in the market that they exist. If your idea is getting into the market and these things are true for that market, you are onto something, and there's a very good possibility that you can convert it into a business and make money from it. Okay. um, let's move on. Money flow. Okay, so I love saturated markets because there is existing money, there is existing flow of money in those markets, right? And this is a very important takeaway, right? Just imagine if you were to be constructing a whole new beautiful development in the middle of a Sahara desert, right? If there is no footfall, if there are no takers, if there are no people who can even find where your this new fancy development is, you will never be able to sell it. Okay, so saturated markets are good markets and easy markets to enter. All you really have to do is, with a few shifts and changes in those markets, you will be able, if your differentiating factor, I'll give it to you now, if your differentiating factor is good, if your comparative advantage is good, if your value proposition is good, if you are doing superior marketing, if you're moving towards perfection, and you're going deeper into the needs of the customer, these are the 5-6 pointers which in any saturated market you can get successful with. Literally any saturated market. I don't care if there are, thousands and millions of people already servicing that market. If you take these 5 or 6, and if you are communicating your value proposition properly, this is one of the big issues with the businesses. They do not know how to communicate their value proposition properly. Okay. All you have to figure out is where is it. So with regards to the money flow, all you have to really figure out is where is it originating from, right? And where is it ending? And all you've got to do is put yourself and position yourself right in the middle of the money flow, and you may have a business. It's as simple as that. Okay. Right. This makes your job easy. All you have to do is identify the flow of money in your market, see how you can position yourself in the middle of that flow, change the flow in your direction, and you are in business. Okay. It is easier to direct the flow of money in your favor than to generate the flow of money from scratch. Okay. So that's what it is. Now, it is easier to sorry, I think this is right. So two ways. There are literally only two ways to market your product, right? You create a new market, right? For example, what Facebook did, when before Facebook, before LinkedIn, before Twitter, their markets never existed, right? Virgin Galactic is another example, right? Gaming market is another example, right? So, before before some of these big companies came on board, the markets in those industries did not exist. But guess what? They had deep pockets. Unless you have deep pockets and you're willing to take that risk and you want to create a new market, go ahead. The only second way to serve a market is to serve an existing one. Okay. So that could be anything: car, clothes, property, whatever. So you already have an established market, a saturated market, but through some of the pointers I've explained, you can still be serving the market and running a successful business. Okay, let's move on. Does your idea have the power to um, meet being met by existing providers? Could your idea shake up an entire industry? Now, these are not necessarily must-haves, but these are good-to-haves components of an idea, right? What problems could you solve? Of course, that is necessary for you to have, for your idea to have, right? What can you do quicker, better, faster, cheaper, safer, right? Again, some points that you can consider, right? The passion trap, the most misleading statement that most gurus and business mentors make. Turn your passion into business. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I'm not the first one to tell you. Turn your passion into business. Wherever you go, when somebody says, when somebody asks a question, what sort of business I should be getting into, they just literally turn around and say, literally turn your passion into business, right? In my opinion, nobody really cares about your passion. That's the honest truth, right? They don't care about your passion. They don't care about your obsession. Your love for what you do. Why do they care? Why would they care, right? They only care about their passion, their mission, okay, their goals, their aspirations. And this is again a very important takeaway. It's not about you. When you're going into the market and trying to sell something to that market, it stops being about you. Okay, you can add your uniqueness to it. You can add your touch to it. You can add your twist to it. You can do all of that, but at the end of the day, you are getting somebody to pay you for something that they want, they need. It's what is required by them, not you. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So how can we complete this statement, and how can we make this more perhaps possible and viable? Turning your passion into a business. Only if you can convert it into a repeatable and sellable product or service, it can help them get what they want, as in your target audience is what I mean here. They are prepared to pay you money for it. It will fulfill your purpose adequately, consistently, and predictably. Okay, then only your idea, that is only when you should be turning your passion into a business. Okay, the physical aspect of validating an idea is, it's a very simple suggestions here, but you can literally get a job in that industry, right? You can run a telephone survey and ask questions. Okay, ask business owners and other people in authority, right? Ask consumers or users of that industry. Become a customer of that industry. Become a mystery shopper. Read trade magazines. Once you know the answer, then you will have the miracle solution or silver bullet, as they call it. Okay. How do you validate an idea online? So let's say you're trying to set up an online business, an e-commerce or whatever. Get a remote job in that industry, right? Research on the internet, Google, Bing, Yahoo. You've got all those research search engines available for free. Read forums, blogs. Okay, visit competitors' websites. If online advertisement adverts exist or advertisement exists, right? That's again a very good telltale sign that there is an active market buying products. Become an online shopper. Once you know the answer, then you will have the miracle solution or silver bullet. Okay, um, so that's that. Now, in other words, basically, I think I've covered quite in depth, what makes an idea successful. I'm just going back on the slide, so I'm going to literally talk about show you. Here you go. So we have covered the first aspect, right? Um, for the listeners on the radio, um, once again, I repeat, we have covered some slides. So if you have got access to the video on Facebook or YouTube, please do that. Have a look at some of the slides I've shared, but I've tried my best to also explain in words. So for the listeners out there, they should be able to understand what we have gone through. Basically, I repeat, there are 7 core pillars I feel that are needed to launch your idea and take it to market and turn it into a viable business. And once again, those core steps are idea, validation of the idea, as in validating the idea, segmentation of the market, making sure that who making sure you know who you're selling to, the product, there is no replacement. You cannot be selling, I suppose, a not so good product, if I may say so, to the market who is willing to buy something, or a half finished product for that matter. The presentation, extremely important, and the marketing and sales. Now, we are almost coming to the end of the program, so I just would like to wrap this up. The most important thing, or the most important takeaway here, is that the more you plan, the more you have an in-depth understanding of these core 7 steps, the more likely, or the higher the chance of your business success. Okay. Or launching your idea successfully into the market. So the deeper you understand, it's all about the planning. So the more you plan and the more you make sure that you are getting it right from the outset, the less chances are, of your idea or your business failing. So, so that is the most important thing. So if you can get most of this out, so this is the way I look at it, right? I think I can perhaps start with an example. Somebody who takes part in the Olympics, let's say, somebody who runs, a 100-meter race in the Olympics. Now, that 100 meters perhaps takes him or her 10 seconds to run that 100 meters, right? But just think about, it takes them 4 years of preparation, planning, very hard work that they have put in, to make sure that they are going to excel on the day, that they are going to be able to get the results that they're looking for on that day, right? So it's all about what you put in, right up front, and what you plan to do with regards to, your idea, and how well you are prepared to take it to market. And if you know your market intimately well, there are very less chances, very less chances of you, not succeeding, if I may say so. Okay. Right. So we've only got 3 minutes left. Once again, thanks everyone for tuning in to 87.9 FM London, Ramadan Radio London. And for those who have been watching live stream on Facebook and YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed this program. My idea was to perhaps enable you to understand some core concepts of how to take your idea to market. The topic of this program was Launch Your Business in 2021. Right. I'm your host, Faisal Talpur. And up until perhaps next time, so I may be doing another one, which is on the 8th of May, Saturday at 4 p.m. Right. Okay. Stay online. The next one we have got is the next program coming up is Converts in Pandemic. It's going to be presented by Abdul Malik Taylor. So you want to stay tuned for that because that's going to be another interesting program. Jazakallah khair, and thank you for listening. Faisal Talpur once again on Ramadan Radio 87.9 FM. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.